Welcome back to the Consult Centre podcast with me, your host, Ruth Wilkinson. Your podcast for all things in startup business, PR, digital, raising the awareness of your brand, featuring interviews with local and successful business owners, giving you the benefit of their help and advice. So welcome back to the Consult Centre podcast. So in this episode, I have got the pleasure of being joined by Alex. How are you?
I'm very well, Ruth, and thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
Well, you are welcome. You're welcome. So, Alex, you have Morecambe Bay Tours. Now, for people that don't know much about that, don't you just give us a little bit of a review? I mean, I know you've only been going now less than a year, so really a new territory for you.
Yeah, so it was one of those light bulb moments, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, where I was driving along the prom one day and suddenly went, I've been thinking for a while about becoming a tour guide, and we have this fantastic, place in Morecambe and the Bay. And I thought, why don't I start my own tour guide business? So on the 12th of April, I'm going to start doing guided walking tours of Morecambe. And depending, hopefully if the business takes off, I'm going to expand into different parts of the Bay and doing different types of themed walks. But yeah, it was really just, I saw this opportunity of something that I'd love to do, and I thought, I'm going to go and do it.
And hear to that. What a great idea. So in terms of, we have got, others may argue, but in my view, the best coastline that the UK has got to offer. Yeah. So what are you going to be, in terms of the tour itself, because I know from your, the website, you talk about that you're quite interested in the history of the area, aren't you? So what would someone expect on one of your tours?
Yeah, so the main tour I'm going to start doing along the prom is going to be a sort of a mixture of history and also the nature and wildlife of the Bay, because I think people coming to visit, they sort of arrive in Morecambe, this fantastic place and this fantastic view. And it's to give them, a nice overview of really the history of the whole, of particularly of Morecambe, but also of the whole area. And at the same time, pointing out this fantastic environment we have. We've got one of the most special natural environments in the country. That view, which is just takes your breath away every single day that I see it. And, I just want to give people a nice overview. And then if they want to go in depth into other things, then they can go and explore other parts of the Bay, or they can go and take tours of other particular places. But I want to give people a really good overview of everything that we have to offer here in Morecambe.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I imagine there'll be some people that actually live in Morecambe that don't necessarily or aren't as familiar with the history of Morecambe. I mean, that will be the case, won't it?
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, obviously, I love that if people who are from here or have moved here recently and don't know very much about Morecambe, it'd be a wonderful opportunity for them to get to know more about their own town. I mean, there is so much. As soon as you start getting into the history of Morecambe, there's so much to it. I mean, it really is a fantastically interesting place. And I can't wait to sort of tell more people about it, really.
Absolutely. So what were you doing before you had that driving down the prom light bulb moment of right from April the 12th 2021 I'm going to be showing people all there is to offer on the Bay? What was life like for you?
Well, it's been an interesting journey. So I've said this a few times. It's hilarious now to be back in Morecambe, because my first job I had, apart from, being a waitress or doing a paper round, was working at Boots in Lancaster. And this was a long time ago. This was in the 1980s. And I was a shop assistant there, and they had a computer department selling computer games. It was a long, long time ago, and, things were really, really basic then. And I really enjoyed that job, and I realised that I wanted to work in IT. So I also did a night school class run by Lancashire County Council. And on the back of my experience and doing that course, I got a place at uni in Leeds, or it was Leeds Poly then in those days. And then I did a degree in computer science, and then I went to work in the IT industry. And on the back of that, I've worked all over the world. I've been very, very fortunate. I worked for Hewlett Packard for a number of years. I started off in Manchester, and then I worked down south, and then I moved to America, and I worked in California for Hewlett Packard for 11 years. During that time, I got to travel literally everywhere: China, Russia, Australia, all over the US, Dubai. I've been to all sorts of great places through that job. But then I got to a point where I was like, I kind of want to do something different. And history was always my kind of hobby, was always my passion that, I sort of enjoyed. And so I decided to go and do a master's in history at San Francisco State University. And while I was doing that, one of the jobs I had was as a tour guide in a big museum in San Jose in California. And I loved it. I loved interacting with people, sort of showing them the exhibits and talking about things and getting them excited. And it was a really, really fun experience. We had a lot of school kids coming in every day. Some days there were like 2,000 children running around the museum. So you can imagine the noise. It was
reasonably hectic then.
It was quite difficult. Some days, they're just the screaming noise with the echo in you. So I did, so I had that job for a while, and then I ended up actually getting another job in IT to sort of keep me going while I was finishing off my master's. So I went to work for LinkedIn at their headquarters in California, and worked for them for 4 years, and that was again really fun. But I always knew eventually that I wanted to, come back here and still be interested in history. But as I said, then I moved back here in October of 2019. And as I said,
wow,
lockdown hit. And
I was going to say, you literally, you've just made it in time before lockdown will have stopped you from getting in, probably.
Yeah, I know. It's been funny because I've been back home, after I was in California for 19 years. And I got back home, as I say, in October 2019, and haven't been able to go and visit all my friends and family from, that are still here because, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So we're doing Zoom things and FaceTime and all that kind of stuff. But I can't wait to actually see, friends and family in person. So
that's wow. So that's a long time, isn't it? On the other side of the world. So when you've landed back and driven down the prom after 19 years, was it considerably different, or did it look the same? Or
I mean, there's some big differences, and obviously, some things haven't changed. I mean, obviously, some of the things have gone, like Frontierland had gone and those kind of things. But the thing that always makes me smile most is Happy Mount Park, because when I was a kid, some of my happiest memories were being on the trampolines and going on the train. And the fact that now, 40 odd years later, they're still there, and I can, you can still go and see it. It's fantastic.
It is fantastic, isn't it? That because I grew up in just outside of Blackpool, and my version of that is Stanley Park.
Yeah.
And so of course Stanley Park is not dissimilar to the idea or principle of Happy Mountain Park. But to know that they still have trampolines there, and that you can still do the boating lake with the powered boats and all that kind of stuff. It's nostalgic, but it's quite comforting, isn't it, to see those things still there?
Yeah. And I mean, I obviously visited in the meantime because my dad and my stepmom lived in Morecambe. They live in Lancaster now, but I was always coming back to visit and sort of keeping up, and so it was. I've got memories of walking along the prom with my dad and seeing the Eric Morecambe statue for the first time and just going, wow, this is amazing that, all the art projects along the prom have been
Yeah.
phenomenal. They've been really, really good.
It has got a real artist community, hasn't it? That's quite evident when you go into the Arndale and you see some of the displays that are there. You see some of the shop fronts. You see some. I mean, even down to what was Frontierland, as you say, and the hoarding that was now on the outside, and then people have started to put their own artwork up onto there. It's quite incredible, actually.
Yeah, it's lovely to see that. It's particularly nice to see Thora Hird, because she's sort of like, I think, one of the unsung women of Morecambe. Obviously everybody talks about Eric, and rightly so, but it was really nice to see that, that lovely painting of her, and also, just all the different types of artwork that's been going up. It's been really, really fun. We should have
a Thora though, shouldn't we? How we've got an Eric.
Definitely.
You should get another where you have those regular parts of the prom where you have the slight recess that would have been the old pier entrance.
Yeah.
A Thora a bit further down would be absolutely superb, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that would be really nice, and it would just be more of a testament to, it's not just about Eric. Obviously, there's lots of other entertainers who are really famous here, but it'd be lovely to add Thora as well.
Absolutely. So your tours are going to start on April the 12th.
Yes.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited. Yes. I mean, we've got a restriction to only 5 people per tour to start off with, because that's obviously in line with the lockdown, the restrictions, and that's fine actually, because I've been doing a lot of market research for my new business, and one of the things that has come through quite strongly is when people go on tours, and I'm sure you've been on them yourself, you go on guided tours, you don't want to be in a massive group with people where you can't hear, where you kind of, you're just not sort of getting the most out of it. So, even when the restrictions are lifted, I'm not going to have massive groups of people, because, you want to be able to have a really good relationship and good rapport with people. And I think you can do that better in small crowds, so small groups.
Yeah. Okay. And so let's say that there's 5 or so people. How long is an average tour if you were doing the going down the prom, if you will? So how long would an average tour be expected to last?
Yeah, so it's going to be about 2.5 hours. It's going to start from the Sailing Club race office, which is one of my favourite buildings, because it's on stilts. You can see it from everywhere. People always take pictures of it, and it's going to be 2.5 hours and sort of go along the prom, taking in all the the major landmarks, and talking about all the things that you see, like the clock tower, like the Eric statue, like obviously the Midland and the stone jetty is going to be a big part of that, and then finish up at the platform at the end, and then people then can decide where they want to go next, because the great thing is, if you want to go for something to eat, you can go and eat at the Midland, or you can go and go on the tour of the Winter Gardens, or you could possibly just go for a walk down to Heysham. There's a lot to do.
There is a lot to do. Yeah,
things to do. And I thought, if I do the tours for 2.5 hours, it gives people a really good taste, and then they can decide where they want to go next.
Yeah, because some of them may want to go back and visit further somewhere that you've already referred to in that tour itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what else might be on the plan then for those for the expanded tours or more tours? I mean, because Heysham's actually got quite a history, hasn't it? All Heysham Barrows and around Heysham Way, and
absolutely, yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the ideas I've had would be, like you say, to different areas. Like Heysham's an obvious place, very definitely. But also, I was thinking of doing sort of themed tours, and somebody actually suggested to me, why don't I do a tour of the TV locations for the Bay, the TV show?
Yeah.
But I might see if people are interested in doing that, because the show has been so popular.
Yes.
And so many people are getting to know Morecambe through the TV show, which is fantastic. And so I'm going to look into sort of doing, sort of important locations from the TV show. And then another idea I was thinking of is to do food of the Bay, because obviously we have a wonderful range of food and drink, and a number of very good providers, restaurants and places like that can provide really interesting tours of the food and drink industry too.
And we have got some really independent aspects of that. I mean, it's a bit like we've got a lot of independent shop owners. We've got some quite traditional skill sets as well, haven't we? Things that, I don't know, maybe aren't on offer in a more urban type area, because you have got some real family orientated or family past skills, haven't we, as well?
Oh, yeah. You see that particularly, like you say, with like the shrimping industry and the fishing industry. It's been generations and generations of families been doing that, and that's a great story for people. If people that don't know Morecambe and are coming here for the first time, it's a great story to tell them, oh, these people who are fishing for shrimp have been doing it for 3 generations, 5 generations. It's a really interesting story for people. I'm really excited about sort of giving that to people that come and visit and come and enjoy the town.
Because it would be interesting when you think about, like you say, also there's the traditional aspect, there's the independent aspect, there's those little quirky places that you wouldn't get elsewhere, those little areas. And as you say, with the bay, they're very invested in the area, and series 3 is now about to start to film.
Yeah. So
there's going to be plenty of locations. I mean, you might need to do them by the most gruesome through to the most picturesque.
When I was thinking about it, I thought, I maybe don't want to focus just on all the grisly, grim parts of it, but also the nice parts too. Yeah.
Although series 2, I think, did show more of our, incredible scenery and coastline, and I think it was. It seemed that bit more favourable on the one that I kind of watched on series 2. It really did show it off in its real beauty, as opposed to just choosing some areas of it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, we don't want it to be like Midsummer Murders, where people are being constantly murdered in Morecambe. It's like,
it is true, though, isn't it? I think you wouldn't go anywhere near Oxford for Inspector Morse or Midsummer for Midsummer Murders, because you've got a seriously high ratio of likelihood that you're going to come a cropper at some point, certainly within 60 minutes, obviously, and we'll solve it within 2 hours. But in terms of that kind of, you've got the winter gardens, you've got, I mean, but there's also things like other films and things that have been set in Morecambe. I mean, that I know we've got some TV stuff now, and I know that there's a few on the Midland and so on, but there's actually been quite a few films, in the recent past, I suppose, that have featured Morecambe quite predominantly. With Laurence Olivier, and that. So it's been quite a location before, hasn't it? And it's in the 60s and 50s.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament, to how important Morecambe has always been as a seaside resort. By the fact that you talk to most people have heard of Morecambe, and they've heard of the town, and heard of the bay, and they've heard of Eric, for example, and they always think of it as a seaside resort. I mean, it's been a very prolific place. It's been a very important cultural place for the seaside, and that's what makes it endlessly interesting. Is everybody's got fantastic memories of coming to Morecambe for their holidays, or visiting Morecambe, for a week or for the day, or those kind of things. I think again, Morecambe is starting to sort of take advantage of this nostalgia, but also looking forward to becoming another really important resort again.
Yes, absolutely, and I think it has everything that could make it a very successful resort all over again. Absolutely. Saying to people, I feel like it's a Brighton Hove in the making kind of idea. It's about to kind of come back that little bit, and I think it does have all that capability. And I think one of the things that is in Morecambe's favour, in a weird kind of way, is that when places like Blackpool were tearing the fronts down and making them all gold and orange and bright red and various Morecambe didn't have that money, so it didn't do it. And actually, what a saving grace that is, because to look up in Morecambe and see all that Victorian frontage and original building is that we would have lost that had we followed the lead of Blackpool and Southport and so on.
Yeah. I mean, the Winter Gardens is a brilliant example. I mean, it could have been demolished a few years ago. It was so much on the brink, and to think of losing such a fantastic building, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And the work that's being done by the Preservation Trust to do all the restoration, I mean, it's wonderful. And we're so lucky that we managed to keep some of these, and obviously the Midland Hotel, so many important, they're really, really culturally important places. It's just, thank God that. Absolutely.
And I suppose my last question for you is, if you think about how far back you might take a history tour, think about where do we stop? So, we've got kind of the heavily Roman influence of parts of Lancaster that's argued. So how far back do you think that you might expand the type of tours in terms of, are we going back to Morecambe in the 1800s when it was a little fishing kind of village, or?
Yeah, I was definitely going to start, sort of talking about that on the tours is Poulton and that whole little sort of fishing community. It's lovely. It's a really sort of lovely little place, as part of the town. And, you can trace a lot of people who lived in, families that lived in that area at that time. And it's a really interesting history. I mean, you could go back to, there's a Neolithic barrow in Torresome. You could go as far back as you want to, really. But I think I'm personally wanting to start talking about Poulton as the fishing village, because that's kind of, Poulton, Torresome and Bear is where the town kind of originated before it became Morecambe, and have that name. And you can still go and, go around those lovely little old cottages in Poulton and, and sort of see that it's still there, which I think is nice for people.
It is there. And I went to the not the Vintage Festival as we know it, but there was a little celebration that was on Air Force's Day down in Poulton. Everyone was dressed up in their all different, and it was they decorated the actual place of Poulton with all the bunting, and it just looked amazing. And of course, it's so easy to look at people in all of that dress at the time and believe it, because nothing else around there has really changed. Anyway, so you look down the little side streets, you see the bunting out, no cars there, and people walking up and down in their 40s and 50s outfits, and think, actually, this could absolutely be, in keeping and in period. It's a beautiful little place.
It is. It's a really sort of, and it's as you say, the great thing is it's still preserved as it was. You can still see all the little cottages and feel part of that. That part of the town is still like a little kind of community of its own, really, and that's great. It's just, I'm glad it's survived.
So, while we finish off, then, where can people find out some more about Morecambe Bay Tours?
Oh yes, well, I have a website. It's called morecambebaytours.co.uk. You'll also see me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, all the social media channels. I'm going to be starting, as I said, on the 12th of April. So you'll see me on the prom, walking up and down. I shall be there. If anybody is, interested in coming on the tours, I'd love them to get in touch. I'm really looking forward to, being sort of part of that whole, promenade community of activities that are going on in the summer. So really excited about getting started.
And you'll definitely be getting the steps in then, up and down there on a regular.
I know, that's the great thing. We're so lucky having that prom, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Miles and miles of, you can just walk up and down, and we've been so lucky in lockdown to have that on our step.
Incredibly fortunate when you think that some people, are not in that kind of space to enable them to just, 5 minutes from their front door, they've got, 10 miles of coastline. I mean, we are incredibly fortunate. That
view, as I said, I never get tired of that view. And, when people see it, for the first time, you can see the sort of shock on their face, like, oh my God. I'm like, that's Morecambe. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Alex, thank you so much. So morecambebaytours.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, and hopefully I will see you on the prom very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruth.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to hear more from us in the future, why not subscribe on your favourite podcast platform? If you'd like to be featured in one of our podcast interviews, then why not contact us? You can search us across social media as The Consult Centre or contact us at hello@theconsultcentre.com. Bye for now.